So after your temporary break, however long it's been off the bike, as if we've looked at how we want to check over our bike perhaps before we leave so we can make necessary adjustments. We've given her a clean up just so we can see what's what on the bike more easily and more clearly. And now we've got to think about the other things that might have changed in that passage of time, however long it's been. Three things really to consider here. What's changed might have been you and the way you're riding, the trail ahead since last time you rode it, and thirdly, more importantly perhaps, is your reaction to the trail and the changes in the trail. Whether it's been firmed up because it's now summer and you gave up over winter, or whether you gave up at summer and you're coming back at New Year and it's still a complete bog out there, the trail conditions will well have changed, and there's going to be performance cues aplenty which we need to deal with, and just remind ourselves really of some of the core stuff that can make the difference between having a blast and plaster cast. So the first thing that might have happened a bit when you jump on the bike for the first time is you're not as loose and fluid as you have been in the past. So while we're getting ready in the car park, just a couple of looseners in the car park really. Just get that loose feeling in the limbs, start to think about how we should be interacting with the bike rather than how we've started to interact with the bike. A little bit of excitement about getting back out there, a little bit of gusto, and we can start to be a bit stiffer on the bike. So firstly, in terms of our body tightening up and not being perhaps as mobile as it was in the past, we want to start thinking about loosening up those ankles, stretching out the Achilles, remembering that driving energy through the bike relies on a lot of rotation down through the hill. So we're going to loosen up a little bit, and I'm just going to take a little spin around the car park. And as I do so, just going to stand up on my pegs, on my pedals, just stretch out, just get that movement going and loosen up. And in doing so, maybe think about then softening my knees in, and just getting a bit more flex on the bike, and just loosening up there. Also loosening my grip, making sure that I'm not death gripping and tightening up my forearms. I'll bounce around a lot over every bump, so just staying nice and relaxed and fluid up top, trying to avoid locking out limbs as I ride. Arms or legs locked out don't provide anything in the way of give, so just getting a little bit nice and fluid. At the same time, I'm checking out my suspension, my rebound, whether it's too soft, whether it's too hard, whether it's pinging me back, and just have a little feel for how things are reacting as I just ride some real simple stuff, maybe waiting for my mates to get ready or to arrive. But yeah, generally loosening up, having a quick check. Now obviously your suspension tweaking and tuning is going to be really tested once we get out on the trail. But if you're bottoming out on your sag in the car park, just doing a few little bounces, chances are you're going to need to put a bit of air in there. If nothing's moving, we need to just retweak that and make sure the bike is a little bit more compliant. Next thing I might want to do is explore my range of movement on the bike. Again, when you return to riding, you can be a bit tight and a bit stiff and a bit lacking in movement. Scared to move too far one way or the other, and just not so sure about what you're doing in terms of your mind letting you do what your body really needs to be doing. So again, I'm maybe just going to explore the range of movement I've got, clear my saddle and sink, back up, and just get that whole range of movement working for me again, and just feeling how much I can move around on the cockpit so that I don't end up riding down the trail like a sack of spuds, not moving to the trail, not responding, etc. Chances are, probably going to start with a bit of a pedal. So again, keep it simple. First couple of 100 yards, just start to think about my pedal stroke. So rather than stamp, 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 which we know is not very efficient and not very good for traction, just starting to knock it down in a few gears, get that heel rotating, just get that push-pull, nice, smooth, circular pedal strokes, engaging the calf, the hip flexor, etc. And if I concentrate on my pedalling for a few 100 yards, hopefully my unconscious competency of good pedalling will return quite quickly. Essentially what we're doing is returning to the conscious state of riding. At the end of the summer or the last time you rode, when you've been riding frequently, you kind of get into a zone where you're riding unconsciously. You're not thinking about everything as you're doing it. For the first part of your re-adventure back into riding, maybe get back conscious again. Maybe get a bit reflective about your competencies, so start to think about what's working, what's not, and gives you areas to focus on in the future. But that loosening up, shaking down, and just getting the handle of the bike. We've got that 4.5 up and down movement. We also need to start thinking about pushing the bike around, so I can just explore how far I can lean the thing over. all the while I'm just loosening up, just getting ready for what's ahead. So having loosened up, maybe it's time to go and think about some trail. That's us loose, and the us part, the me part of the equation. The next thing we think about is the trail itself. So let's go find a little bit of trail. So you've loosened yourself up and you've started riding. One thing you can't guarantee, and should never guarantee really, no matter how short your break is from the bike, is that trail ahead won't have changed. I've read loads of stuff on forums and online, people bemoaning that a jump's appeared on a trail, etc, etc. If you're looking far enough ahead and you're riding within yourself, you should know that well before you get there. So expect change, expect something different. Whether it's hard-working trail pixies that have sanitised your favourite trail by making it all weather, hard-wearing, bermed, jumping, full of the things you like, or whether it's the natural degradation of a trail that's got worse and worse over the years because people dragging their brakes, or wet weather, or sustained periods of soft ground, do expect some change. Now when you expect change, whether you expect change or not, what you also need to be aware of is your ability to deal with that change, your mental approach. The big change in you is going to be your mental approach. If you've not ridden for a while, your sense of time perception is going to be changed, your speed awareness, but also how you react to performance cues. We've looked at visual, input and anticipation performance cues. Now you come back to this down stretch here and you haven't ridden it for a while, hold your breath, take a man up and head on down. You're likely to be riding it down in a really tense and tight state. So be aware that of the effect that performance cues can have on your riding. The anticipation, the waiting game, that's likely to lead you to hold your breath. At which point you are no longer moving fluidly around, letting the bike move fluidly below you, but you're much more tense. The visual, really the first one to go and can go quite quickly. You've taught yourself to look as far down the trail as possible. You jump back on your bike after a 3-month break, you're not so sure about things, you're analysing every route, every rock and every problem along the trail. Your head drops, and as a consequence, information's flying in there quick and you can't deal with it, so you jab those brakes on. Keep your head up, practice getting that head back up, the furthest point of elevation you can see, as far down the trail as you can see. Don't get sucked into looking down into the trail. If you can see your stem, pick your head up. Then you've got your input, which we're going to deal with good energy management. That whole being fluid, that warm up within the car park should start to get you loose. But as you see things, move with them, drive the bike into things, unweight and weight in the correct manner, but manage performance cues well. They are the things that are the performance cues, the longer you leave them before you deal with them again, the more they're going to affect you. So be prepared, expect some change and deal with it.